Jesus had a way of looking at people that changed them just by the look. He didn't reduce people. When he saw people, he saw them. And it changed them because they had never been looked at like that before. And he also saw something else in them, which when we encounter that type of gaze, always changes us. And that is, he saw their potential. He saw what they could become with him. I don't know if you've ever been looked at like that before. Maybe you are an athlete and you are trying to, finally make the team or something like that. And you always kind of felt second best. And then someone came along and saw you and saw what you could become. And it makes you bigger on the inside. It stretches you. You almost become more noble just by the way they look at you. Or maybe you are trying to start out your career. You're just making the best you can. And all of a sudden, one of the older people in the company takes you alongside. Or whatever. This gaze principally is the gaze of a father or a mother. Fathers and mothers, you look at your children, you hold them, and you love them. Right there, just the way they are. And you love what they are going to become. You do. And that gaze actually kind of makes a path forward for your child. That makes it forward. This is also what priests need to experience again and again. Before I entered seminary, if I can say it with so much affection towards myself, I was a train wreck. I was an absolute mess. Yep. Father Peter, one time when he was talking to me, he said, sometimes you can see train wrecks in slow motion. I was a train wreck. I was a complete mess. I barely knew which way was up. The only thing that I knew was God was tenaciously calling me to be a priest. And I was trying to tenaciously not become a priest. And finally, one day, I threw up my hands and I said, fine, I'll be a priest. And I said, I'm not going to call the seminary. I'm not going to write them a letter. I'm driving to the seminary and I'm getting an application on Thursday. I just picked a day. I was like, on Thursday, I'm going. I was a salesman, so I could set my own schedule. And so I drove to the seminary. Somehow I got in the car and drove to the seminary. And I got to meet with the vocation director's assistant, his administrative assistant. She's given me the application, and I said to her, when's the last day that I can fill this out and still come to the seminary this following September? And she said, today. It was June 30th. June 30th. It's impossible to fill out a seminary application in one day. So they gave me an extension and I was able to complete it in about a week. And train wreck as I was, they accepted me. They saw what I could become, which was a priest. And then because of that seeing, and that was just the beginning, because of so many people seeing me right where I was and seeing what I could become with Jesus, step by step by step, I started to heal. Step by step by step, pieces started getting put together. Step by step by step, I started to become ennobled because of a look, because of grace. Jesus, he goes out and he sees the crowd. He sees the crowd and he says, he sees that they are troubled and abandoned, like sheep without a shepherd. Another translation says they're harassed and helpless. Do you feel harassed, helpless, troubled, abandoned? You see, sometimes when we get in those positions, we feel lost. And then we always feel like we have to put our best foot forward. Well, what happens when your best foot is in a boot? What happens when your best foot forward isn't enough? You see, Jesus, do we always have to put our best foot forward with Jesus? Do you always have to put makeup on for Jesus? No, we want to be respectful and things like that when we come to important events. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when our insides. You see, Jesus, he sees us and he sees, oh, they just don't have a shepherd. They just need me. They just need a shepherd. And little by little, as they start to eat green grass rather than brown grass, as they start to drink clean water rather than filthy water, as they start to fill their minds with my thoughts rather than the world's thoughts, all of a sudden, they're going to start becoming who they were meant to become. I've seen it countless times. Countless times. One of the greatest joys of being a priest is walking with people and seeing them flourish, seeing them become what they were meant to be, which is you. You are meant to become you. And you are meant to become Jesus. They're not opposed to each other. And Jesus, I love this about Jesus. When he sees people, even in the worst situations, he doesn't put them in a box. He doesn't reduce you. He doesn't draw an equal sign between you and your mess. Jesus doesn't see a mess. He sees you. Jesus doesn't say, look at that big mess. He says, I love them. I love them. It's interesting. Did you catch that word that happened in the second reading? When we were helpless, he died. He died. So today, wherever you find yourself, Jesus' heart can see you and be moved with pity for you. And he says, the harvest in Woodbury is abundant. It's abundant. Pray to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into Woodbury. Will you become one of them? Will you start to see yourself as Jesus sees you? Will you start to see others, not for their mess, not for their train wreck, but what they can become? They can become great. You can become you. You can become like Jesus.